Thank you all for joining us today. We have a wonderful webinar ahead here, and we are featuring one of my favorite people that I've interacted with here at Klara in my 2.5 years, Fran Saperstein, the COO of the Center for Complex Neurology. Fran, if you want to introduce yourself, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, thank you, Francesca. It's an equal pleasure to work with you and the rest of the Klara team. We started our practice about 4 years ago, and we started it with Klara, and that has been probably the best decision we ever made. And so we're excited to share our love of Klara with whoever needs it, wants it.
That is wonderful to hear. And as mentioned, I am Francesca Belmer, the marketing director here at Klara, and just excited to have this conversation. So we're just going to kind of go over briefly kind of like the state of the industry, and then we'll kind of take you through the patient journey, right? The before the visit, the things that happen there, during the visit, and then all of that communication and touch points that follow after a patient actually leaves the office. So overall, categorically, staff and patients want a better healthcare experience, and communication issues, plus an abundance of manual tasks, are really starting to take a toll. For instance, the 93% of healthcare executives say that burnout is negatively impacting their organizations. So Fran, as the COO, what are your thoughts on these stats? Do they resonate?
They absolutely do. Our staff has turned over almost completely in the 4 years. And so and some of the same roles that we're dealing directly with patients are the ones that continue we have to replace them. They burn out, they get tired, it's a real challenge in every field, but I feel like in healthcare, it's even harder because you need someone with specific qualifications and empathy. And those two things together are sometimes hard to find.
I can only imagine. So, what I take away from that is that healthcare is complicated. There are so many touch points associated with a single appointment that it's really hard to keep it all straight. And this complexity is leading to that staff burnout. Staff aren't feeling supported. What we've heard from some of our customers is that, they've relayed up that their patients don't feel heard. And what the studies are now showing, unfortunately, is that patients are willing to go elsewhere to find providers that they can, be in contact with constantly, that they can get a hold of easily. I don't know if you've experienced any of that, if you've heard any kind of that same sentiment.
Absolutely. One of the reasons that we chose Klara was that we started out our first couple of days just when we were telling patients that he was starting his own practice with the phone ringing all the time. And we were just waiting for Klara to get into place. And that week was more than enough for me to realize that this was going to be a huge improvement. Our staff felt supported. The phones weren't ringing off the hook. They could concentrate on one thing at a time. The patients can reach us when they have a question, whether it's 3 a.m. on the other side of the world, or it's, 5 a.m. here. They can leave us a message through Klara, whether it's a voice message or a text message, and we can respond to it in a timely manner. And we just let them know, hey, we got this. We'll be in touch. I'm going to forward this to Dr. So-and-so. And it helps us to retain our patients. It really does. Patients do go elsewhere. Patients will doctor hop. And if they don't feel cared for, if they don't feel heard, if they don't feel like they can communicate with you and reach you, then you're never going to build a steady relationship with them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And touching on one of the things that you mentioned, they can message in any time. So at Klara, we're really trying to tackle these communication problems head on. And we're trying to do it by moving beyond patient engagement, right? There's a lot of, text reminder systems out there. But we're trying to move it into more of a streamlined collaborative experience so that, everybody in this journey is actively involved every step of the way. And one of the first, ways that we achieve this is with our phone system integration that does fit, into your existing phone tree if you have one of those set up, and it does turn phone calls into two-way messages. And the best part of that, is that you have this high phone volume that the practices are dealing with constantly, and we have an 89% utilization rate for this phone integration. And that means that when they're prompted to press 1 to text instead of staying on hold, patients choose to hang up the phone and start a text conversation 89% of the time, which does clear the phone lines for those that do want to speak to someone live on the phone. So, Fran, how has your practice seen a decrease in that phone volume since implementing Klara?
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, we still have days when the phones are a little crazy, but crazy for us is one call after the other. It's not 10 phone calls at the same time. And with the thousands of patients that we have under our umbrella, to be able to still be able to communicate with them through the texting app, the texting portion of Klara, they feel like they're the only person we're talking to. And that's how every patient wants to feel. So
Absolutely.
this allows us to focus on that individual patient, have the EHR open and look at, what's going on with that patient, what happened with that order that they're asking about, whatever question, it's all there, and it's something we can easily relay back. And that has it's streamlined our process, it's made our patients happier, and the patients who use the call to text, and it is at least 89% of our patients. We try to get to 100, but there are some who just don't. But I think we're probably more like 93% of our patients utilize Klara. And that has just been a lifesaver for my staff, but also for our relationship with our patients and maintaining that relationship.
Well, that's wonderful. And one of the things that, that I like to point out is, if you imagine, like you have a front office person and they're on the phone with one patient, maybe they're having like a 10-minute conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're just talking to that one person during that time. Whereas, you turn that into a two-way messaging conversation, and suddenly that one person is able to talk to 15 different patients at the same time. So, like less phone calls doesn't always mean less patients.
No, it absolutely does not. In fact, for us, it actually means more patients because we can take care of more people because of that multitasking that we can do, but it doesn't feel like multitasking to the patient. They feel like they get that 100% of our energy, and we are our staff is always on Klara. There's always another message. There's always something that we're in the middle of. The way that we separate the messages has helped that as well. We use it as pretty much our tickler tool for communicating with our patients. And, rather than having thousands of pages of paper with notes all over the place that you can't find all over a messy desk, or having, people look at each other and say, no, it's your turn to get the phone. It happens. It's part of that burnout and staff turnover. But they just want to take care of the patient.
That's awesome. That's exactly why we're here, at least. So I wanted to kind of transfer over into, kind of just providing that high level patient journey.
Yeah.
And as we all know, at least, on this call right here and the whole industry as a whole, we all know there's a lot of tasks and phone calls associated with each of these boxes. So we're going to get into the challenges that a lot of people are likely facing and kind of how Klara is, built to solve those. So first and foremost, we've kind of broken this up into our 3 buckets of the before the visit, the during the visit, the after the visit. And there's just so much to do before a visit to even get patients through your door. The staff has a lot on their plates. And, even before a patient comes into the office, you're constantly juggling all of these things, usually while the phone is ringing off the hook. So you're also just getting interrupted nonstop. So with Klara, what we're trying to do is, reducing those tasks and centralize, your patient pre-visit outreach into one unified patient conversation. So it's all in one place, and patients can schedule their appointments, right from the website 24/7. So you're not ever missing any kind of new patients that are looking to schedule. You can communicate at scale when life throws a wrench into your schedule. And then you can also send customizable appointment instructions. And this is really important because, depending on the appointment type, there's a lot of different ways that patients need to prepare ahead of time. And then you also want to reduce those no-shows without picking up the phone. You want to make sure they even remember they have a visit that they need to attend. So,
yes, absolutely.
Do you use, some or all of these features?
We use basically use we reorganized the way that we do things around the Klara system and what its capabilities are. So we send out our notes. We have automated responses to certain things, and where we don't have automated responses, we have templates that the person answering that will respond, and it is extremely scalable because of that. So I can have someone who's come in and has just been here for 2 days, and they will sound like, to the person on the other end, they've been here forever because it's the same template. It's just about utilizing the resources within Klara to make them work. And we give customizable instructions for different types of testing. Sometimes they can't take certain medications. Sometimes they need to know they'll be here for a long time, or they need to wear loose clothes. All of that is in our instructions. And without that, we would have so many false starts. We did have so many false starts, and we did have problems with patients having to cancel appointments, or we would have to cancel certain testing because we knew it wasn't going to be accurate. They'd stayed on their medications.
Yeah.
And a huge help.
Oh, and then, when you actually have a visit, and patients are in your office, staff is multitasking between check-ins and phone calls, potentially trying to collect copays. They're trying to juggle this all at the same time. And one of the ways, that we are really excited to announce of how we're trying to, further solve, for this like in-person experience is introducing our newest product offering, and that's our patient intake product, which really does allow patients to complete demographic and clinical forms ahead of their appointment, so they don't have to do it in person. And that data is going to automatically update within Athena, so that staff doesn't have to manually enter it. And you can kind of say goodbye to that manual data entry, which is always a pain for honestly any profession, and your staff can leave the office on time versus staying late to play catch up. So Fran, you're a star pilot customer for patient intake. Can you just tell us a bit about your experience working with our products and implementation teams?
Yeah. So every interaction I have with Klara, and I know I'm biased because I just love working with you guys, but every interaction I have with Klara is always positive, even if I go with a problem. It's turned around pretty quickly. The support staff are amazing. So let me just put that out of the way, first of all. But in terms of this new product, when they came to me, I was like, I don't know how we'll do that. I had to get my head around it. We have a bunch of forms that our patients have to fill out before they can even schedule. So we decided that we're going to focus on the follow-ups, because those are patients who are already scheduled, already in the system. And so one of the things that we've found is that by using the Klara Forms option, where we have fillable PDFs, that information can get completed. The question is, does it get into the chart in a way that the provider can see it? And the answer has mostly been no, because it's a lot of hand data entry, and it basically requires somebody who is very detail oriented and cannot focus on anything else. And that's not possible in the healthcare setting. It's just not. So we were excited to try this option and work with Klara, and we love that the information gets written from the EHR to the Klara app, the appointment intake, and then back to Athena. I mean, it's bidirectional, and it's fast. And so by the time they fill those forms out, even if they don't fill them out until they get here, because we know that's going to happen sometimes. We try to do it before, but sometimes they'll send us something, even 5 minutes before. And if they send it 5 minutes before, it's not going to get to the provider in time.
Right.
But if they prep for their appointment and they fill out the top 3 things that they want to do, then there's an agenda set, and they won't forget those things. And the provider can make sure those 3 things are going to be touched on in that 30 minutes versus, but 4 phone calls later afterwards. Oh, I forgot to ask about this. I forgot that I need this. It helps them to prepare so they get a better visit. It helps our providers to be sure that they've met the needs. And having all of this through the appointment intake process coming directly into the EHR has been just a huge improvement for us. And working with your team has been, as usual, amazing. They've worked with me. They've made me feel special and focused. And every practice is different. And so every practice is going to have different needs. Ours certainly does. And they've worked with us to make sure that our specific needs were met and continue to be met.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. I'll also relay that back to our product and implementation teams because they are stars. And I appreciate the shout out for our support team. We love them as well.
Yes.
What are you and your staff most excited about in terms of this new patient intake functionality? Like, how do you think it's going to impact your practice, a year from now?
I think a year from now, our process will continue to be streamlined, and that will continue to make it easier for a patient to feel like there's not a bunch of healthcare paperwork they have to fill out, because they'll be able to quickly complete it and complete it on the phone or on the computer, either way, perfectly well. And they'll feel like they have some control over their healthcare, and will feel like we have some control over what ends up in the database without having to manually do it. And I think that in the long run, that's going to allow us to see even more patients and to care for even more patients and to do treatments on more patients. Because right now we have people who are doing those things, doing a lot of admin work to keep us on top of things.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine. And you had mentioned something a minute ago about how, that information exchange, that data exchange is bidirectional. So, if
Yes.
you already have that information, within the EHR and the patient goes to fill
Yes.
out a new form, it's already pre-populated for them and they just have to edit it and update it if
Yes.
needed, or just save some time in general.
Yes, it's amazing. And, even when I've been testing it and I make changes, I can see immediately, as soon as I submit the form, it's in there. I mean, it's magic. But
It is
to some extent
magical.
it is, I mean, it's like, but with everything going on with AI, there's a lot of change, a lot of magic stuff out there. But for
Oh
us,
yeah.
this is magic.
That's wonderful. I'm a big Harry Potter nerd, so anywhere we can make things magical, I'm
There you
definitely a
go.
fan, and we're really excited. Now hopefully now staff can focus on things like either collecting those copays, or just simply providing a better inpatient or in-person experience for those patients. And it helps the practice really stay on schedule. Again, the point that I love to drive home that we've heard from a lot of our customers is anything that can enable their staff to leave on time, have a life outside of work, spend more time with their family. That's just
Yes.
huge right now.
Yeah, that's going to decrease the burnout, hopefully. I mean, I mean, that's because the amount of money that we spend on training and recruiting is it's ridiculous, to be honest. It ends up being more than one FTE's salary if we lose 2 people in a year and we have to replace them. It's ridiculous. It's like having 3 people, and that's not fiscally responsible. And so if we can find ways to
Right.
support our staff and support our patients at the same time, and everybody feels cared for, like with these Klara products, that it's a win all around.
You stole the words from my mouth. I was going to say it's a win-win for
Sorry.
absolutely everyone. And that's and we've only covered so far from before the appointment and during the appointment. Now we have all this post visit communication, and honestly there is a lot that happens post visit. It from interrupting phone calls and more patients checking in. It can be hard to follow up on all of these things after an appointment at the end of the day. So you have to re-engage after a missed appointment, because life happens to all of us. You have to provide test results, appointment follow-up communications, just checking in or making sure that they have their post-care instructions. There's just all of these like outbound phone calls previously that used to have to take place. And all of that post-appointment communication with Klara can be automated, and it can be, again, customized by appointment type, location, provider, so you don't lose that personal level of care. Instead of multiple manual touch points, becomes kind of like set it and forget it simple, is how I like to describe it. We have all the things listed on here to keep patients coming back and reducing that manual data entry. Or recall reminders, satisfaction surveys, so you can gauge if you're missing the mark or meeting the mark, depending on what your patients respond with. But I think I'm pretty sure you use all of these features as well. And how has that kind of impacted your practice from a post-appointment perspective?
Well, a lot of our new patients in particular will come back, will leave with a lot of orders. And, they're not feeling well, they forget. So we have these automated reminders that go to new patients at 3 weeks and at 6 weeks after the appointment. Hey, you remember these orders that we gave you? Are you having problems? Do you have questions? And then at 6 weeks, hey, did you finish all that? If you already scheduled it, we can get you on the schedule for the next appointment because we know how long those results take to get back. And those things have improved our follow-up with our patients enormously. Just those 2 templates. So imagine we have probably 12 templates. So what those do for us is just incredible. It's, reminding patients, like you say, to call us back, to schedule another appointment, to even just do their labs, because sometimes they forget. I know I forget to do mine. So if I forget to do mine and I am not nearly as ill as some of our patients, I can't imagine what it's like for them to try to do that. So that's one of our reminders. Don't forget to get your labs done before your next appointment. It does take X number of weeks to get these labs back. Wink, wink.
Nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. I love that you're utilizing kind of all of these automated touch points. And still that hopefully, like you guys are customizing them in a way that, like they don't feel like an automated reminder. We can throw in some of that personal language in there to make it feel, like they're actually receiving a message from a human that typed it out.
Yes. They're constantly going through changes. And what the beauty of those templates is that we can continue to change them, and that doesn't affect which appointments they are attached to. So once you name the template, it is attached to whatever types of appointments you tell it to and whatever frequency you tell it to. And I can keep updating it and sort of see, you know what, I think that needs to be a little more casual. Oh no, that needs to be a lot more formal. And we can just keep, adjusting things as we find we need them. And that's been another huge opportunity for us, because communication with patients is fluid. And so being able to keep the templates fluid has been a real opportunity for us.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'll leave this, as like a splash screen up there of some quotes. But Fran, I really appreciate you being here with me today. And are there any final thoughts? I know that going back, it's the topic that no one likes to really talk about anymore. But during the pandemic and during COVID, is there any lasting impact that you've been able to overcome since you partnered with Klara?
Absolutely. So, the pandemic hit, we were all shut down, and we were told do telemed. Well, it's like, okay, so now what? Well, immediately, pretty much, Klara put in the telemed system, and it was amazing, because then it's just a one and done kind of place for our patients. They just go directly to Klara. There's the little icon that they press and they're there. The conversation is right there. If the provider's running late, we send them a little text, but it's all right there. And during the pandemic, this was so important to continue managing the care of our chronically ill patients. Without it, a lot of our patients who, they did get sick with COVID, or they just had a flare in general, they would have gotten even worse, and they wouldn't have had anybody to turn to if we couldn't contact them. And quite frankly, we probably wouldn't exist if we had to shut down and couldn't continue to have those appointments. So Klara has anticipated our needs every step along the way, has continued to grow, like with these new integrations, and I just see so much potential with the product as it continues to grow and become more integrated into everybody's practice.
Oh, well, thank you for that. That is high praise coming from you. I just want to thank you for your time again. You're an absolutely wonderful partner to Klara, and I know that all the staff that has ever interacted with you, we just absolutely really enjoy those interactions. So, so I want to thank everybody else for thank you, thank everybody else for attending. And if anybody needs more information or wants to reach out, if anyone's interested in our patient intake product, you can go ahead and shoot us an email at hello@klara.com, Klara with K. So, thank you for everyone's time, Fran. It was a pleasure as always. I hope you have a great day.
You too.